have seen previously what is an off bridge and what is the voltage output. At that time we have seen if there are two stresses or two changes in resistance, then they have to be found out is whether it is increasing, whether the change there is change in or increase in resistance or decrease in resistance or the polarity, and accordingly those two resistances should be joined. That what you have seen, but we will explain that again with an example. Suppose you consider a cantilever. This is a load cell where the load can be load at the end of the cantilever can be measured. That is, F is the force, and it is acting at the end of the cantilever, so it deforms. It deforms like this. And for this, I will draw the plan view also. This is the cantilever width. So at the end, we are applying the load. Now, to get the signal proportional to force, there are two possibilities. You can use only one strain gauge, fix only one strain gauge, and use this connect this terminal as R1 in the circuit diagram of the bridge network. That is one. Second, that is quarter bridge. Now, for half bridge, you should have two active arms, as you have seen. Now, one more one also can be put at the bottom. One more strain gauge. This we call R1. And what should be this? That should be decided by the type of change of resistance. That is what I want to demonstrate now. That is, for this type of loading, downward loading, what we have at the top layer is tensile stress. So, tensile strain. So, R1 will be under tensile strain. Now, this is the signal, this is the bridge network, pure resistance DC bridge network. So, this is our R1, this R2, R3, R4. We are picking up the voltage, output voltage at the one pair. We are giving the to one pair of opposite corner we are giving the excitation voltage. Other opposite pair we are using for the output voltage. So, R1 we have fixed. Now, which should be R2? That depends upon the type of stress. Now, what is the type of stress we have got or strain we have got? When this is tensile, for cantilever at the top layer tensile, bottom layer will be compressive in strain. So, compressive in that resistance will decrease. So, for R1 temperature is the resistance is increased, for other one the resistance will decrease. That is, this is, if you call increase in stress, increase in strain or a positive and negative tensile strain as positive, then we should call negative strain compressive strain as negative. Now, tensile strain gives rise to increase in resistance, and also we know compressive strain decreases the resistance. So, it is opposite polarity. When resistance increases in one, similarly at the same time the other strain gauge resistance is decreased. So, opposite polarity. So, opposite polarity you should connect to adjacent arms. So, it can be for R1 adjacent arm is R2 or R4. R4 also adjacent, R2 also adjacent. So, we will say we will connect it as R2. Now, this will be R2 terminals. Call these terminals AB for R1, CD for R2. So, this will be AB terminal, and this is CD terminal. So, accordingly you connect it in the bridge, and you will have the voltage output is equal to now E by 4 delta R1 by R1, and we know the tensile strain and compressive strain are equal in magnitude, since though they are opposite in polarity. So, twice magnitude will be same. So, twice delta R1 by R1. So, it is equal to E by 2 delta R1 by R1. So, this is that is twice the sensitivity of the quarter bridge. So, this is a case where the changes in resistances are opposite in polarity, and if what is example where it is similar in polarity, same example you can take. We have got again a cantilever, force, and instead of pasting it at the bottom, we paste both of them at the top. So, this is the plan view of the cantilever. This is the end view F. So, this is F. Now, put the two strain gauges at the top itself. So, two strain gauges at the top. Now, what should be the, suppose if you call one as R1, one strain gauge as R1, what should be the other one? We should fix the number. That is, for these similar strains, similar changes should be connected, that we had seen earlier, should be connected to opposite arms. Now, if it is R1 is at the top, then other one should be R3. This should be R3. So if you call AB, terminals AB and the other terminal CD, now this is AB and CD now will become C and D. So accordingly connect the other, the R4 and R2 will be constant resistances of 120 ohm, whereas R1 and R3 are active ohms. So that is how we have to connect the bridge when we want to use the bridge in off bridge conditions. Off bridge conditions you can realize only if you know the strain directions, positive strain, negative strain, or positive change or increase in resistance or decrease in resistance, or both of them increasing resistance. Accordingly you have to connect in bridge. This is what is very important. And we know if we connect wrongly, suppose the similar strain, both of the increases in the resistance, but you have connected instead opposite, suppose we connect it in the adjacent arms. Then what will happen? R1 and R2, they are positive but they are negative in sign, so that cancels out. You will get 0 voltage irrespective of the load we have got, irrespective of the force we have got. If you connect wrongly, you will have output voltage always 0 irrespective of the magnitude of F. And that is a property what we are making use of in temperature compensation. This is temperature compensation. So what is temperature compensation? Suppose we have again with this example we can see we have got a quarter bridge, a cantilever, and only one strain gauge is fixed here. So that is our R1. Now when temperature compensation is required, that we have to see. Suppose the R1 we have connected this in the bridge network. R1, this is the output voltage, and this is the excitation voltage. Now R1 is changing. Now R1 will change when we change the input signal F. Also it will, when suppose input signal 0, suppose temperature is increase, around the surrounding temperature is increase to say from 20 degree to 30 degree. Now we find there is due to temperature change itself we have got some output voltage here. That is called temperature sensitivity or temperature error due to temperature. That is because the material which is making up the strain gauge wire, that resistance of the strain gauge wire increases whenever the temperature increases. So there is a resistance change, but it is not due to F, but it is due to temperature. So since it has changed from R1 to R1 plus delta R1, so EO will be appearing. So how to compensate for this? That is temperature compensation. So even though the temperature has increased, we do not want to have any output since there is no input force. How that is obtained? For that you put another, you take the same material as the cantilever material. Suppose it is mild steel, take another mild steel strip and paste another strain gauge. And now all of them should be subjected to the same temperature conditions. Now in this case, now connect whatever be the change taking place in R1 due to temperature, that also will take place here. But we want to cancel this effect here. So connect both of them in adjacent arms. So this will be our dummy gauge. So similar change, instead of connecting opposite for increasing output, now connect it in adjacent arm. So this will be R2. That is, this terminal will be C and D, this terminal AB. So now AB is the terminal of this and CD is the terminal for the compensating strain gauge. But no load, but it is just a dummy piece, that's why it is called a dummy strain gauge. It is not loaded. So the resistance change will be only due to temperature. Here there will be resistance change due to temperature as well as this. But the temperature component of it, since they are in adjacent terms, they get cancelled out. Whatever with the output we are getting in such a bridge, it's only due to F. That is, we are compensated for the temperature effect. That's called temperature compensation. So the bad effect in increased sensitivity is well made use of in compensating the temperature effect in the off bridge conditions. So this is off bridge, but actually it is a quarter bridge with a dummy gauge. So this that's how we make the disadvantage in one situation is made use of another situation. So just like the lubrication bearing, friction is unwanted in bearing, but in clutches and brakes friction is required. We have to make use of friction. Similarly, where it was cancelling earlier the sensitivity, make use of it for the temperature compensation. So that is regarding the off bridge condition. Now we go to full bridge, that is this third configurations, full bridge, in which the bridge is made use of quarter bridge, off bridge and full bridge. Full bridge means all the four arms are active. All the four arms are active. That is what is full bridge. Now we assumed for this for derivation of this equation, all the four arms are increased by delta R. Increased by delta R. Mind R1 increased to R1 plus delta R1. R2 increased to R1 plus R2 plus delta 2 and so on. So when all of them are positively increased, or all the four arms are positively increased, then you will find when each one is equal to each other, magnitude wise if they are each other, then you will find 2 times it get added up, 2 times subtracted, then net effect will be 0. So that means similar strain or similar changes in the resistances, if we connect it in a bridge, it will give rise to EO is equal to 0. All similar, that is all similar increase in resistance. That means we cannot connect like that. Then what are the configurations it is connected? For example, we consider here another load cell. It's a column type load cell. So this is a round piece, and now suppose it is subjected to loading, say compressive loading, and the problem here is if we connect all the 4 strain gauges axially, so all the 4 strain gauges axially, that is one here, one there in the end view, one here. If all the 4 axially if they connected, then for this load or tensile load, all the 4 are equally strained or stressed, or that means resistance will change equally in all directions, in same direction and to the same amount. In that case EO is 0, we know. So don't connect all of them, don't paste all of them in the same direction. 2 of them axially and 2 of them transverse direction, 90 degree to the, that length is 90 degree to this length. So that is called Poisson's configurations. Poisson's configurations. That is 2 in axial direction, other 2 in the 90 degree to the axial direction, transverse directions. So in that case, we will have, suppose R1, and we want similar. This is if it is R1, that R3 it should be opposite, because similar changes should be connected in opposite arms. R1 and R3 are opposite arm. The other 2 will be transverse strain. That is for tensile you will have compression. Here compression means the transverse will be tensile in strain. So now R1, R2 and R4. R2 and R4 will be taking up the transverse strain or compressive strain, or for a compressive axial strain they will take tensile strain. That means delta R2, delta R2 is equal to delta R4 is equal to 0.3 times Poisson ratios for Milestone. If it is 0.3, then delta R1 is equal to, that is minus of, it's minus 0.3 delta R3. So 0.3 times the axial strain will be the other 2 transverse strains. So substituting this 0.3 in this, so delta R1 and delta R3 are tensile axial strain, and here minus of minus, so and here also minus of minus point. So 2.6 by 4. So EO will be 0.65 E into delta R1 by R1. Under this condition, under this condition the magnitude are same, and the transverse strain are 0.3 times the axial strain. Then you will get the Poisson's configurations like this. For Poisson configuration, E output will be 0.65 times, that is little more than the off bridge. Now there is another way, another usage for the full bridge in cantilever. Again the cantilever loading conditions. So there you can have 4 strain gauges with 2 of them in tension and 2 of them in compression. Suppose this is a cantilever where force is the input signal. By pasting, now I will draw the plan of this cantilever. Now we find 2 strain gauges are pasted at the top to take up for this type of loading tensile strain. The other 2 strain gauges at the bottom. Now this is, if it is R1, this would be R3, and the other two here at the bottom will be R2 and R4, R2 and R4. This is R1 and R3. That means R1 and R3 will be picking up the tensile strain. That means they will be increasing in the resistance, whereas R2 and R4 will be decreasing in resistance when force F exists. That is bottom layer compressive, top layer tensile for that type of loading. In that case, the E by 4 into 4 times, that EO is equal to E by into 4 times delta R1 by R1, where delta R1 by R1 is equal to minus delta R2 by R2 is equal to delta R2 R3 by R3 is equal to minus delta R4 by R4, because they are all equal in quantity. When magnitude same, only polarity bottom cages will be opposite than top. So in that case you get E is equal to E into, that is 4 times the sensitivity of quarter bridge. E by 4 will be for quarter bridge. For full bridge it is 4 times sensitivity of the quarter bridge. So these are the configurations in which we have to use the equation profitably. So if you wrongly connect, then you will get EO is 0. That is what is very important. Yeah. In the market, we have the strain gauge indicators, so called strain gauge indicators, mostly made up of USA. There, if that is mainly meant for quarter bridge, and if you connect a strain gauge, paste it and connect the strain gauge to the meter, it will give the readings in terms of micro strain. Yeah, in terms of micro strain, 100 or 200, 300 micro strain. So that is 10 to the power minus 6. That's micro strain. It gives the reading. Such a strain gauge meters, indicators or strain gauge meter. Okay. Strain gauge meter or indicator. Okay. Are available in the market, but there are a few knobs there. One calibration, second sensitivity, that is calibration, sensitivity, and zero adjustment. These are the 3 knobs are there in such strain gauge indicators, which give directly the strain as the reading here. Whatever member where we have pasted the strain gauge, that strain is indicated by the strain gauge meter. So what are these three knobs? By that what we achieve in the strain gauge indicator, what I am explaining. Suppose if any instrument, before we make use of it, we should calibrate the instrument whether it is giving the correct reading. Without checking that correctness of the reading, there is no point in using that instrument. Similarly, the strain gauge indicator, if you want to use it, then give the power supply as indicated and then see whether the instrument gives the correct reading. That is called calibration. So for that, use the knob, calibration knob, and close the knob. If you close the knob, then you should get the reading 200 to the power minus 6. This is what you are supposed to get in a particular instrument. If you don't get 200, adjust some knob. What you are doing actually at the time of when you are closing the switch, what is done inside? Actually, there is a shunt resistance for one of the 4 arms. Here, for example, R4 has a shunt resistance. When you press the knob calibration, you are closing the switch. That means R4 is changed to R4 to a new resistance. The combination of the 2 parallel resistances R4 RC divided by R4 into RC divided by R4 into RC divided by R4 plus RC. That is the equivalent resistance of the 2 parallel resistances. So it is now change in resistance will be R4 minus the new resistance R4 RC by R4 plus RC is equal to R4 squared over R4 plus RC. That is the new resistance of the 4th arm. So change in resistance, now change in resistance always represent, that probably we will see little later under displacement, a change in resistance always represent a particular value of strain. This strain we want to have 200 as reading. Then what should be the change in the resistance? This 1 by G is called gauge factor. G is gauge factor. It is given by the manufacturer, that is around 2 normally. So for a 200 reading, G is 2, R4 is 120 ohm as I told earlier. What should be RC? So RC comes about 299,880. So 2,99,880 ohm. Such a resistance is put there. When you close this switch, immediately the resistance change is equal to a strain of 200. So you get the whatever the imbalance voltage. Say when the change that is imbalance. That voltage is made into 200 by electrical circuit. You should get 200. If you don't get the adjust some arms, some other knob, that is what is indicated. So by calibration, we are changing one of the arms and then getting the reading, required reading. Then suppose if it is sensitivity, then sensitivity adjustment is done. Again, if you don't get the required reading, you are supposed to adjust the, suppose this is a bridge network. There is one more resistance in series, one more resistance series, call it RS, and this is our excitation. This is R1, R2, R3, R4, and UO is obtained here. So when sensitivity is to be adjusted, we are adjusting one of the series resistance in excitation. Series with the excitation. RS is series in excitation. So when we change the resistance, what happens? Actually, the voltage drop is, if you call ES here, this is capital E. The net voltage actually used for excitation is E minus ES. E minus ES. This is what is the excitation voltage for the bridge. By changing RS, ES is varied, hence E is varied. Now we know already the voltage output E is equal to E by 4 into delta R1 by R1. This is what you have learned under imbalance condition of the bridge. Now when these things are called, so this is our input signal, delta R1 is our input signal and this is the output signal. So if you call this XO and this as XI, then DXO by DXI is equal to E by 4 R1, E by 4 R1, 4 R1. That is R1 is constant and E is the excitation voltage. E is the, here in this equation, excitation voltage. So whenever we change the excitation voltage, sensitivity is changed. This is the equation. Hence you find with just putting a series, putting a resistance series with the excitation, we can vary the sensitivity of the bridge. So having higher value, we will have the higher output voltage. That is output voltage proportional to the excitation voltage. By using the property, we are changing the sensitivity. This is what we are doing. When we change sensitivity knob, we are changing resistance in series with the excitation. Then what is a zero adjustment? That is zero adjustment. Again bridge network. And now we have two more resistances and one adjustable. This is R1, R2, R3, R4. This is the output voltage EO, and here we have the excitation voltage E. Normally, the four resistances which we are connected in bridge network, each one has got certain, say R1 is equal to 120 plus or minus 0.1 ohm. This is what is specified by the manufacturer. No strain gauge will be having exactly 120 ohm. It will be varying. Some limit is there always when we manufacture. Exactly we don't get. So all the four arms will have some such ranges, and there will be some difference of resistances among the four arms. So even though we don't change any one of them by giving input signal, say in a cantilever load cell, we don't give any force, but still the moment you connect them into a bridge and then give excitation voltage, you will have E0 not equal to 0. That means they are not equal. How to make them equal? That is what is done. The principle here is, now the point A, if you call point A, B, C, D, A to B is our R1. For R1, now it is made up of R1 and another path, that is A to B you should go, R1 and another parallel path, two parallel paths. In that one, suppose it is R4, you call this R5, this R6. Now R6 will be somewhere in the middle. So R6 by 2 this side and bottom side R6 by 2, half of the resistance. So the R1 will be made up of, equivalent R1 arm will be made up of R1 into R6 by 2 plus R5 divided by R1 plus R5 plus R6 by 2. This is equivalent. And when we move this up and down, we are changing one of the resistances which decides the parallel, which decides the equivalent resistance. So by this we change two adjacent arms of the bridge is changed by moving this. Thereby we get the balance. So any differences in arms will be made up by suitable moving up and down. That is, by changing two adjacent arms, we get 0 here. Then only we are going to make use of the we can make use of the bridge for any reading any signal. So the zero adjustment should be done by adjusting one of the by adjusting this knob. That is called zero adjustment. When you rotate the zero adjustment, it is moving up and down. Thereby the equivalent resistance of R1 and R2 are suitably changed to get 0 reading. So that is all about regarding the DC bridge, DC circuit, DC bridge. Now we have got AC bridge also in usage in mechanical measurements. Now AC bridge is made up of resistor, so resistance, inductance and capacitance. So these are the three passive elements in AC circuits. Now each arm, previously it was made up of pure resistances, it can be made up of any combination of these three basic elements. So resistance, inductance, capacitance. So resistance, capacitance alone. So similarly you got inductance and capacitance alone. Any such combination, only resistance alone. So this is the AC bridge. So here we have got output. This is an AC bridge, resistance, inductance. So R, C, R, so L, C, so C, L, and R. So any combinations can be thought of to get this is AC bridge. This is a typical AC bridge. This is AC bridge, and here the condition for the balancing is, previously we had a condition for balancing for a DC bridge as a ratio of adjacent arms. Here it can be also stated product of opposite arms. So that is what we are using here for AC bridge. So product of opposite arms. Now if you call R1, C1, R2, L2, C2, R2 here L3, third arm. This is regarding third arm, and C4, L4, R4. Then each one is made up of impedance of Z1, Z2, Z3, Z4. Then the product of opposite arms Z1 into Z3 is equal to Z2 into Z4. Instead of ratio of arms, here it is written product of opposite arms. That there previously it was ratio of adjacent arms for DC bridge, but here it is product of opposite. Both are equal. And now we have one more condition for AC bridge, that is phase difference phi 1 plus phi 3 should be equal to phi 2 plus phi 4. So previously for DC bridge only one condition should be satisfied for balancing. For AC we have got two conditions, condition 1 and also condition 2. Phase difference also should be made up. We know Z1 is equal to R1 squared plus LC minus 1 by C omega C omega L omega for inductance whole squared. So root of this is your Z1, and phi 1 will be this phi 1. Say phi 1 is equal to R1 divided by 10 minus 1 of 10 minus R1 by L omega minus 1 by C omega. So these are the phase angle. I am sorry, this is opposite. 10 minus 1 of phi is equal to 10 minus 1 of L omega minus 1 by C omega divided by R. That is reciprocal, 10 minus 1 of this. So these two conditions should be satisfied for AC bridge. So far we have seen the bridge network as signal conditioner. That is, the resistance change is converted into voltage change. That is what is achieved in the signal condition in this bridge network. Now we are going to learn the second signal conditioner, that is amplifier. We already told amplifier is used to increase the power level of the signal. Normally in a bridge network like that, voltage will be of the order of some millivolt, 0.1, 0.2 millivolts, something like that, and the energy level content of the signal is very, very small. So we naturally give the output to the output of the bridge network to a power amplifier. So that is use of these amplifiers. Now, in case of mechanical signal displacement, probably we can take the hydraulic power amplifier, hydraulic or pneumatic power amplifier, where suppose this is the power amplifier, say hydraulic or pneumatic, and we give one number, say xi is equal to displacement say 1 mm, and the output also will be displacement, say that is d2, d1 and d2. This also may be 1 mm, but this 1 mm from the, say it may be hydraulic stroke pneumatic power amplifier. Suppose we are giving this 1 mm input signal to the hydraulic power amplifier, it gives rise to again 1 mm displacement, but the force accompanying this displacement will be of the order of, say 100 Newton. Here here it is order of 0.1 Newton. This 1 mm input displacement was having a force of only 0.1 Newton, whereas the output output signal, even though 1 mm it has moved, but through having a large force of 100 Newton. So that is use of the power amplifier. Even though displacement same, energy level is very large. Hence, when I use this force to actuate a valve or move any big mass, that we can use it. Whereas this displacement cannot move any mass or any resistance, cannot overcome any resistance. That is the main use. So in mechanical measurements, since we are converting the displacement signal into electrical signal, later on when you want to increase the power level, we already electric signal is available, so we normally go for electronic amplifiers, electronic power amplifier. But without transducing displacement into electrical voltage, if you want to give inject power, then go for hydraulic. Once you have converted in electrical quantity, then it is easier to inject power by using electronic power amplifier. Under this, we have got many power amplifiers: AC amplifier and DC amplifier, charge amplifier and impedance transform amplifier. So many amplifiers are there, but the main common problem of all these amplifiers is drift and noise. These are the common problem in any amplifier. That is, by this diagram you can understand. Suppose time, and this is the output voltage of a bridge, of an amplifier. Suppose amplifier, if you represent by this block, and this is your input signal, and this is going to be your output signal EO, and at time t is equal to 0, you short circuit these input terminals. Then you will find that is you connect your this amplifier, you put into the plug where the domestic electric supply is connected to the amplifier. Now you will find EO, if you plot EO versus time, you find it is varying somewhat like this. So it has got both micro and macro variations. That is, it will be varying around this common value. It will be varying like this. So it is called drift. At any instant, we got the drift is equal to, so this is called drift. It has from 0 it is increasing. This is 0 level, so it is increasing. As time increases, the drift increases, and it gets stabilized after certain duration. This may be say 1 hour or half an hour. After half an hour, it gets stabilized. So that's why in usage of any amplifier, you should not use it immediately after switching on the amplifier. You have to wait until the voltage output is stabilized, then adjust it to be to 0, so that it is in the balanced condition. It is brought to 0, and then you give the input signal. So the drift is eliminated by adjusting the amplifier after a certain settling time. Now that is the drift is the macro variation. Drift is the macro variation. It's called macro variation of the voltage, because this voltage increase is there not due to input voltage, because of some, it is called thermal. It is due to the thermal in nature. Drift is due to thermal in nature. Due to heating of the elements, some random flow of electrons takes place, so it gives rise to some output voltage even though there is no input voltage. And the other variation, this is micro variation. So this is micro variation. This is your noise. This is the noise. it is in terms of microvolt, whereas drift is of the order of 1 or 2 volt. It may be 1 or 2 volt, whereas this is microvolt. So 1 or 2, here 1 or 2 microvolt in terms of microvolt. But this is due to random flow of electrons. It's called Johnson's noise, sometimes called Johnson's noise. Johnson's noise. It is due to random flow of electrons in the electronic elements, say resistor or transistor or capacitor. In these elements, you will have the random flow of electrons. So the noise will be there. Whenever we use all those elements, noise will be there. Whereas drift can be reduced after some time. So drift is a slowly varying phenomena, whereas the noise is high with high frequency but very low amplitude. These are the two problems in any power amplifier and in an amplifier. But certain amplifiers, by their property, they don't possess they are not having the drift. Some of them have, but all the amplifiers will have noise, because noise is micro variation and it is due to random flow of electrons in all electronic elements are there. So noise is always there, but drift is there some amplifiers, and some amplifiers it is not there. So we will see first AC amplifier. Under these headings, we will know, or we will learn only important points. We are not, as mechanical engineers or non-mechanical engineers, we don't go into the detail of the design of the circuits. Under what situations we have to select such amplifiers, that alone, or what are the salient features, they are alone touched in these different types of amplifiers. In AC amplifier, a crude form of AC amplifier in single stages, you say for example old tube type construction, electronic valve, and more or less same principle is there for the transistor. So this is our EI, this is earthed, and here the plate voltage, and again earthed, and we have the output voltage here. With the resistance in series, and the output voltage is taken. So this is output voltage. It is a simple amplifier circuit where this is a resistance R and earthing. These two things again they can be connected. So it's a cathode and grid and anode, this plate. Now if you connect, it can be used for both AC and DC. These such circuits can be used. You can EI can be DC voltage, or that is across terminals AB. AB we give, and across terminal CD we take the output voltage. So if we connect at the input and output side to capacitors like this, then only AC component alone can enter into it. DC it will be simply blocked. Similarly, only AC voltage alone will come out, and the DC component cannot come out. So by connecting two capacitors in series at input and output, we convert this simple circuit into AC amplifier. In practice, it will not be case. It will be because to reduce noise and all, many more resistance capacitance will be there, but it is simple circuit. So here, since drift is a slowly varying phenomena, that cannot come out because it will be filtered here. Drift is, though it presents, it will be filtered here. So we find the AC amplifier is drift free, and also you find AC amplifier, general characteristics of AC amplifier. If you call this EI and EO, suppose it is AC amplifier, its general characteristic is somewhat like this. Suppose it's omega and EO by EI mod, the magnitude ratio if you plot. AC amplifier will increase, will be active only after they say cutoff. This is the cutoff frequency, omega cutoff. That is, at a particular frequency, there may not be any magnification of the EI. That is called cutoff frequency. Above this frequency alone, that is omega versus EO by EI. That is gain of the amplifier. Gain of the amplifier will be there only above the cutoff frequency, and this may be say 0.1 or 0.001. The EO will be 0.00 or 0.1% EI. That is, it's negligible. Whereas here it may be, say it may be 100. Say 100 times gain is 100 or 1000. So we have got AC amplifiers with fixed gains or adjustable gains, and each AC amplifier has got a cutoff value. So between this and above this value alone, it will be magnifying. That's another characteristics of this AC amplifier is the CMRR ratio. CMRR ratio is called last or represent ratio, but still it is called CMRR ratio. That is capacity of the, it indicates the capacity of the AC amplifier to eliminate the noise signal. That is called CMRR ratio is called 20 log A signal by A noise. Since the ratio is going to be very large, the logarithmic scale is taken and it is called decibel, so many decibel. That is, A signal is the magnitude amplified portion of the output of the AC amplifier coming from signal, and the amplified voltage coming from noise signal. This ratio should be very large. That is, it will be, suppose if it is 90 decibel, suppose it is 90 CMRR ratio, if it is 90 decibel, that means the A signal is equal to 31,600 times A noise. So it is a good one. So it is the signal is much larger than the noise. Such a CMRR ratio is there. That is the capacity of the amplifier to eliminate any noise entering into the amplifier. That is there only when you connect the wire to a this is a transducer at a long distance from the amplifier. You have got long distance to the transducer, and any power line, nearby power line, will produce some voltages on the wire carrying the signal. Such a superimposed signal can be eliminated by having another circuit that is given 1 or 2 standard books. So by having another circuit, this erroneous voltage is allowed to drive current in two opposite direction, and the differential is alone allowed here. In such a difference between due to this erroneous signal is negligible. That is so we are able to eliminate any error source. Also, due to a faulty earthing of this amplifier as well as the transducer, that signal also can be eliminated by having such a special circuit as part of the amplifier circuit, and then we eliminate the error source. Also, we find if it is of 50 hertz, when amplifier is having omega cutoff corresponding to 100 hertz. Suppose cutoff frequency for a particular amplifier is 100 hertz. Any error due to 50 hertz will be lying somewhere here, that will not be magnified at all. In such situations, we find AC amplifier is more suitable. If it is DC amplifier, this also will be amplified. This is the advantage of the AC amplifier. That is, it has a higher cutoff frequency, so that any nearby 50 hertz noise can be eliminated automatically by this. And secondly, since it is AC only can come out, drift will not be there. So AC amplifier is drift free, and it can filter away the signal of less than the cutoff frequency, especially the domestic power line. Any noise due to domestic power line, it can be cut off. That is AC amplifier. Then DC amplifier. DC amplifier, as I told, same circuit without capacitor. If you remove the capacitor, it can be used for DC. But problem with the DC amplifier is it will have drift problem. As soon as we switch on, the electrons will be flowing to thermal phenomena, and you will have the output as we have explained. And that means after some time you have to balance it and bring it to 0. So when EA is 0, EO is 0. Then only you have the proportionate relation between EA and EO. You cannot have any variation because signal will be lost. So drift is the main problem. Drift is main problem in DC amplifier. Main problem. To overcome this, nowadays people go for chopper amplifier. Chopper amplifier for the DC for amplifying DC signal. The chopper amplifier is somewhat like this. So this is plus and minus EI is given here, and this is the chopper. This is AC amplifier. AC amplifier and low pass filter. low pass filter. From low pass filter we get the output signal EO. This is a chopper amplifier. Here what is done is the DC voltage applied across say terminal AB is used by using a chopper. So this is your EI versus time. It was originally DC voltage which is applied here, but by using the chopper what we do is we alternatively connect this the contact is alternately made say between point P1 and P2. When it connect here, when it is connect, when this switch contact P1, the 0 voltage is applied. When it contacts point 2, then full voltage applied. So alternatively 0 and full voltage is applied. So 0 full, 0 full. So it is like this. The voltage is applied. Now this will be the EI for the AC amplifier. So it is DC voltage is converted into an AC voltage of course square cross section or square waves or rectangular wave. It is varying in nature depending upon frequency. The frequency of the input signal to AC amplifier is varied. Naturally this frequency will be higher than the cutoff frequency of the amplifier. So we find converting the DC into AC signal by using a chopper, and then use this is a capacitor. Only the varying component alone will go capacitor, and it is now AC amplifier is a drift free. So then we are getting so this same waveform here also, but increase, say 100 times increase, the magnitude is 100 times increase. Then when it comes to filter, then you find these variations, these variations by smoothen. So like that. So finally we have EO as this will be the EO form. That is smoothening effect will be obtained by having a low pass filter. So the high and low variations is smoothened out, final more or less a DC signal. So this will, suppose DC here is 1 volt, this may be 10 volt. So 10 times gain is 10 times what you, or 100 times. So we have got EO. This is the process what is used for DC as DC amplifier. Here the problem of drift is overcome because we are using AC amplifier and we have converted the DC into AC. So we have got the drift free. The whole thing is DC amplifier. Drift free DC amplifier now. Yes.